hi to the beautiful EXP. Well, there we go.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. How's it going, my friend?
Oh, I'm very grateful to be here.
Thank you.
We're in exciting times.
Yeah, no, we're excited. It's we had to move to the theater room because of the modem. So awesome. Well, Darren, I appreciate you, and I know that you've been on the board of directors a long time with EXP, and you know we have a good mix here. We have some agents that have been with us for several years, icon agents, previous brokers, to agents that joined 2 weeks ago. So and maybe a couple guests. But you know, can you kind of give just a high level overview of your experience with EXP, a little bit on your background, and kind of go from there if you don't mind?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So I'll just take like just a couple minutes just to give everybody kind of the backstory, the comeback story into EXP, how it all ties in. You'll see just kind of my story, how it all ties in. So I, as a kid, I grew up in a middle income family. I failed grade 1 of public school. I was misdiagnosed with a learning disability and a reading disability. And in grade 1, I was put into special education classes from grade 1 right to grade 12. So I never went to regular school. I was in special ed the whole entire life. I was medicated on a drug called Ritalin. When I was 7 years of age, I just feel like I just didn't belong. I felt invisible. I felt it didn't matter. I was not good enough, not smart enough. I was in this specialized class. So I created my first little business called Rent-A-Kid at age 7. And I would go out and cut grass, shovel sidewalks in the wintertime, and deliver newspapers 6 days a week. By the time I was 9 years of age, hired my best friends in my neighborhood to go out with me. And we were going to mow to a million. It's our joke that we used to say, right? Mow all these lawns. And it was just about making a difference. And so I discovered throughout elementary, junior high, and high school that, you know, all we are is a network of conversations. And anything that we really want in our lives is going to come from strangers. Strangers have everything we want, everything we need, everything we desire in our life. And all it is about building relationship equity. And it's about making things relational rather than making things transactional. For a lot of people, they're transactional. Look at social media, for example, on LinkedIn or Facebook. Somebody sends you a friend request, boom, they pop into your inbox, and they're trying to pitch or sell you on something versus build that relationship equity. And so as I grew up, I eventually graduated, I got to grade 11, taken our class one day by a guidance counselor and a school teacher. They asked me what I wanted to do because there was a high chance I was not going to graduate from public high school. And they'd not really had many people not graduate from grade 12. And I said, I want to travel the world. I want to grow and scale companies, build things. And they're like, well, Darren, based on your academic track record, you know, that's kumbaya, that's dreaming. And I really believed it. And so they told me I was a throwaway kid. I would never amount to much, probably never go far in my life. So it really affected who I was as a human being, my direction, my focus, my self-confidence, the negative self-talk. So when I did graduate from grade 12, I left the city I grew up in with less than 20,000 people here in Canada. And I moved to a place called Vernon, British Columbia, Canada. And I did multiple suicide attempts to end my life because I just didn't matter. I felt invisible. And my final attempt at driving my car 85 miles an hour towards a telephone pole, I stopped the car. I drove a short distance to a nonprofit organization that was a crisis line, 24-hour crisis line, rang the doorbell, and I turned myself in. Lady came out. They spent some time counseling me. This is back in the early 1990s, got introduced to a Dale Carnegie training program, then a Toastmasters program. And I launched a corporate training business back in 1995. And between 1995 and the year 2000, I made over 100,000 cold calls. And sometimes I was 3 to 5 months behind on paying my rent and paying my bills, because my phone bills back in the early 1990s were between $3,000 and $5,000 a month. And I would just smile and dial 400 cold calls a day. And I was calling out of the yellow pages and white pages to companies to book me for corporate training services. And so between 1995 and the year 2015, I traveled the world and trained over 1 million people in 50 countries on 4 continents, including 157 of the Fortune 500 companies. And this is how Glenn Sanford with EXP ties in. I was fortunate enough to meet the co-founder of Federal Express and met a chance to meet him a few different times and learn from him. And one of the things he shared with me is that he was mentored by a guy who sold chicken in a cardboard box, Colonel Sanders. And he met him when he was 65 years of age, an old rumpled outfit trying to sell chicken in a cardboard box and franchise it. People thought he was crazy selling chicken in a cardboard box. And so he ended up joining his opportunity and helped grow and scale and build KFC until the Colonel passed away. And then a guy said, hey, you know, we're going to be delivering packages overnight and competing with the United States Postal Service. We're going to build a little company called FedEx, called Federal Express. So Frank McGuire went to work with those two companies. Now, why do I share these two companies? Why do I share this story? Because when it came to Kentucky Fried Chicken, Colonel Sanders sat down and wrote out his ideas on a napkin. When Frank McGuire met Fred Smith with Federal Express, he wrote his idea on a napkin. In 2013, I got introduced to Glenn Sanford through a high net worth family here in Canada that was looking at investing into EXP. They'd known Glenn for many years. And they'd asked if I'd fly back to Kelowna, British Columbia, Canada, and be part of the due diligence team to vet the EXP model. This is back in 2013, a small little company, building the airplanes, were flying it, couldn't pay the agents on time. And they wanted me to meet Glenn. And one thing I learned from being around different mentors, success leaves clues, because behavior never lies. Behavior never lies. And so being a kid with special needs, special education needs, I didn't have the academic smart. I was very street smart. And I could pick up people, right? And when I met Glenn, in the first few minutes, Glenn reminded me of Wayne Gretzky, world famous hockey player. Wayne Gretzky always knew where the hockey puck was going to be before the hockey puck was there. But being around these different mentors, they showed me certain things to look for in terms of people's character, right? Because there's certain things about character. And one of the things that Glenn did when he first met me is he didn't pitch or sell me. He educated and he informed me. He built relationship equity with me. First key thing, if you want to build a business, do not pitch or sell. If you want to attract agents to EXP, do not pitch or sell. Educate and inform. Rather than doing speaking and talking, do listening and asking questions. Just listen and ask questions versus do all the talking. And educate and inform and build relationship equity to become relational rather than transactional. It's a key thing. So in my first time meeting Glenn, it was powerful just how he unfolded and shared his vision and his mission of what he wanted to do. But he talked about his frustration in the industry of how agents were being taken advantage of, brokers were being taken advantage of, high fees, they were thrown against the wall, see who would stick. It was transactional versus relational. There was lacks of integrity, and he wanted to make changes and protect the agent. And one of the things I discovered in my discovery calls and discovery meetings with him in the early stages was Glenn was obsessed with doing things right, with best practices, with integrity, but having the agent's back. Now, myself being a corporate trader for 25 years, traveling the world 276 days a year globally, I trained all the real estate companies. I'd been in all the boardrooms, met a lot of the CEOs, the executives and founders of all the companies, had lunches and dinners with a lot of these people around the world internationally. And I thought, wow, this guy is different. He is different than everything I've ever seen. And I got to pay attention here. So after several discussions back and forth of Glenn coming to my home, him and I doing things on this flip chart behind me, which I still keep to this day. I wish I could have, could have kept the napkin presentation there and framed it. And so that's how I got introduced to EXP, but it was Glenn's integrity, because I learned in my life that without integrity, nothing works. Nothing works, because you can cut corners. You can do things. You can circumvent things. But here's the thing. Over time, those cracks will come into your foundation and your foundation will crash. So if you don't have a strong foundation to build on with integrity as a core principle over time, because here's the key thing that I learned. Time will either promote you or time will expose you. It's just a matter of time. You'll get promoted or you'll get exposed. And when I met Glenn and I started to build a relationship with him, I realized this guy's the real deal. This guy will get promoted over time. Could be 10, 20 years now. He'll get promoted, but he's not going to get exposed. And that was the early days of how I got into it. And so then the family, we had some discussions. The family invested into EXP. And then Glenn and I developed a relationship. And then in the early days, Glenn, Jason Gessing, and I, the three of us would get together. We had a little over 100 plus people in the entire company. Wasn't much happening. Things would be done on QuickBooks. Potluck events. That's how we got started. But Glenn was a visionary. Glenn knew where the hockey puck was going to be for it was, and I just believed him. The guy was just obsessed with the agents and making a difference in humanity. And he says, we're going to do this. And that was, and then in 2014, we started to grow and develop. And then the day I met Gene Frederick, and Gene said, me coming on board, the real estate industry will never be the same. And I'm like, okay, they're doing something. And so that was the early days for me of how I discovered EXP. And so I was around when we got laughed at, made fun of it, ridiculed. And just full disclosure, when I was looking at coming onto the board of directors for EXP, we were a private company, okay? I went to 73 people that were well respected in my network throughout North America that ran large franchise and large brokerages. And they've been in the industry for decades. Some of these people, I won't mention names, but some of these people were well known across the United States and Canada. And I kept track of all 73 people in a spreadsheet, and all 73 people said, do not, Darren, do not get involved in this company. You're competing against people who have very deep financial pockets. They've been around for decades. They have a well-established brand, and these companies come and go. And this guy's just a dreamer. And I went for a walk the one day here in Vancouver, not too far where I live. And I thought, okay, I remember a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And he talked about, you dream at nighttime, an advisory council in your mindset. Close your eyes, you visualize it. And I imagine all these men and women that were mentors to me throughout my life. If I brought these people to an imaginary mastermind in my mind, who would they bet on? Would they bet on the entrepreneurs, the jockey and the horse, or would they listen to all these people that have been in the industry for years? And my gut, my street smart gut said, you got to believe in this Glenn guy. There's something about this guy that's unique and special. This guy's a genius, but he's so far ahead of it. He's so far ahead of the curve. He's like Chip Wilson, the founder of Lululemon. Chip is always 5 to 7 years ahead of everything. That's why he built a multi-million-dollar brand called Lululemon. Because if you watch some of his videos, he talks about he's 5 to 7 years ahead of everything. And that's why they can grow and scale so fast. And that's why I saw Glenn. Glenn is so far ahead of everybody else in the industry, because most of the industry is run by accountants and lawyers. Glenn is an entrepreneur. He believes in people. He's obsessed with agents. But the cool thing about it is his character, his heart, and his integrity. It's not transactional with Glenn. Glenn is relational. He deeply, deeply, deeply cares about the agents. It's very important.
I couldn't agree more. And that's one of the things, Hamudi and I have been fortunate to know Glenn over the last 6 years, but for the agents just coming in, you couldn't have said it more perfectly. Glenn it's not just about EXP and the financial opportunity. It's Glenn himself.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's also what Glenn, it's interesting because I like to watch. One of my things, I play dumb a lot when I'm with people because it's street smarts for me, right? Because I was always the invisible kid in school. So nobody ever noticed me. So I can hide, I can hide in the crowd. Nobody sees me because I did that for a good portion of my life. And what was really interesting I remember the first time we went to ring the bell at NASDAQ and we're in New York, and Glenn was just watching Glenn see people come in. And it was not about Glenn. It was not about what he accomplished. It was about everybody as a family. Everybody as a community, right? We took pictures of it to mark the moment. And it was such a powerful experience to witness this guy who got laughed at, made fun at, and ridiculed. But the thing is, time will either promote you or time will expose you. But also, too, in life is that, it's 3 steps. First of all, step number 1 is you're going to be ridiculed. So when you join this business, you're brand new, and people don't understand the model, you're going to get ridiculed. There's a period of time where step number 1 is you get ridiculed. Friends, family, neighbors, coworkers, they'll laugh at you. They'll ridicule you. Step number 1. Then step number 2 is it's going to be opposed. They're going to start to watch you, observe you, research, do the discovery, start to notice things. Like I get text messages almost daily now of people saying, oh my gosh, there's an EXP sign in my neighborhood now. Because I told people 5 years ago, you watch, someday in your neighborhood, there's going to be a real estate sign. Oh, it's not going to happen in my neighborhood, Darren. Keller Williams dominates our neighborhood. Remax dominates our neighborhood. You're never going to see one of those signs in my neighborhood. I know who the top agents are in this industry. I said, well, just wait. Just wait. We'll be there someday. And now the signs are starting to pop up all over the place, right? So first of all, it's ridiculed. Then it's opposed. Then step number 3 is it's served as self-evident. And we really got tested during COVID last year because a lot of people laughed and said, well, let's do the stress test. Let's see if their model in terms of sustainability, if it stands up during the stress test during a global pandemic. I think we did pretty well. Numbers don't lie, right? And so we went through that, and now it served as self-evident. And now I get the phone calls. Why didn't you push me a little harder? Why didn't you spend more time with me 2 years ago? Why didn't you? I should have got involved. I should have invested. And I'm like, you know what? I wasn't there to pitch or sell with you. I'm not a licensed agent. I'm just sharing with you, but I like to educate and inform. To me, it's about the relationship, not about, you're a respectful person. You make a decision. That's one thing I always share with people. I'm like, listen, you know what? I'm not here to convince you. I'm not here to persuade you. I'm just here to share some information with you. I ask that you do a comparison. You can run the numbers. You can do a comparison, and you do what's right for your family. And you do what's right for you. And if this makes sense for you and your family to free up and buy back some time to do what you enjoy to do on your life terms, then that's great. Because if I can free you up and allow you to live an extraordinary life and to come here and not just create lifestyle income and drive a Mercedes and a BMW, which a lot of agents like to do, that's just so people know, Mercedes-Benz and BMW love real estate agents because they consume the most amount of their products in the world, Mercedes-Benz and BMWs. And the thing is that I love seeing the agents where agents come to me, they're like, you wouldn't believe I got an extra 10, 20 hours a week of my life from not having to commute. I'm like, what do you do with your time? I spend it with my kids. I do things with my spouse. I work out. I do things. That's what it's about. It's about the quality of life. And then it's not about creating lifestyle income. Because people come, I want to create lifestyle income. No, you want to create life impacting income or life changing income where you can change your generations of family. And then you can build churches, or you can build schools or orphanages, or you can sponsor soup kitchens, or you can do things. You can do things in your local community because you're in a position where you can do it. And that's why I love about our model is designed to allow you to live an extraordinary life. You got to work for it, but there's great upside potential of what it is. And that's why I really like it. And I've just seen it, and we've seen so many evidence and case studies over the last couple of years of, people paid off houses and weddings and debt and done things of community service things and humanitarian things and other things. It's just been extraordinary. And that's what it is about the stories, about seeing the ripple of impact of how we make a difference in the world. That's so important because at the end of the day, we're in the people business and it's all about building relationships.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things we were talking about this morning is, Glenn, during the convention last year, he talked about pain versus purpose. And if
Yes.
your purpose is only financial, then you're going to stop at some point.
Yes.
But now it needs to get beyond that because so one of the things that was brought up yesterday is so somebody's doing well in stock and revenue share and they get complacent. So what is your suggestion to maybe some of the attractors with EXP who are comfortable and they're getting complacent in their career and we need to make that impact?
Yeah, start spending time with people you respect and admire, not people you're always having influence on. People hang out with people they're always influencing. Now you want to get around people that you respect and admire. So you can stand on the shoulders of giants. So get around people you respect and admire, not people you always have an influence on. I'll give you an example. Well, the last 25 years, I got approached by over 300 book publishers to write a book about my backstory and comeback story. And I just had limiting beliefs in regards to I'm not smart enough. Like, why would I ever write a book? So I said no. And then during COVID, Tita and I were doing end-of-life planning, and I have cases and cases of journals over the last several years. I journal every day of my life. And I was thinking about my family, about giving these journals to my family. And I thought, why don't I do something with these journals? There's a lot of private conversations. So then I realized, why don't I create a book to serve humanity? So regardless of playing a big game, I put out there that I want to make a difference in 5,000 people's lives. So I put out there on social media, I'm going to help 5,000 people with my book. You wouldn't believe the amount of people that private messaged me, phoned me, texted me, and said, Darren, are you absolutely crazy? I'm like, what do you mean? 5,000 people? Are you ever crazy? You're playing so small in your life. I'm like, what do you mean? 35,000. I'm like, 35? Yeah, you have to pre-sell 35,000 copies for June of 2021. Why? Because you need to make a bigger difference in the world. So then I do a radio show the other day. I announced 35,000 people. People are messaging in way too small. You got to go to 50,000. So why I say it is because when we're influencers, we think we're playing a really big game. But in terms of self-actualization of human potential, our children know that we're selling out. Our spouse and partners know that we're selling out. People in our community know that we could play a bigger game to serve humanity. Here's the reason why. Dedicate your life to a cause greater than yourself. The secret to living is giving. Dedicate your life to a cause. You want to have a goal or a dream. So my goal in the next 10 years is to give $100 million away for global philanthropy projects. 100 million US dollars. Okay? To build schools, orphanages, to disrupt human child sex trafficking, to do a whole bunch of things that we want to do as our planetary assignment. I have no idea how we're going to pull it off. But I know that my dream wakes me up in the middle of the night. When I wake up, I get called into wanting to be in action. Late night, early morning, and that's what you want. Is you want to start thinking your mindset to dream of saying like so. Some of the influencers, you might make good money. Great, Write a check to Children's Hospital for $1 million. That's gonna impact your net worth. So you think, man, I want to be in a position in 5 years. I want to model to my children, right, that I can write a check for $1 million to a children's charity, right? I want to be able to fund a lunch program at my school. Okay, I get emotional about it, because when you really start to think bigger, now your why becomes stronger. And when you dedicate your life to a cause greater than yourself, right? That's the big thing. Is how many people can we help through the ripple of impact? And that's the key thing, is you get out of the way of yourself. And that will cause you, and put yourself out there, because it all comes down to requests and promises. You see, when I put a thing about the books of 35,000 copies, people are like, no, Darren, that's too small. You got to promise up. You got to promise up to 50,000. Now my mind's thinking, how do I do 50,000, right? So why don't we do things in terms of humanity? Let's get, Kenya and Uganda and Liberia, and each country will have somebody sponsor 500 books, and I'll go over there when it's safe from the COVID thing, and I'll distribute in these villages, people who can read and understand English. I'll distribute 500 copies to people who are hungry to give them education. Because any mother will tell you that if you educate a child, it will change a child. And that's the key thing, is that we got to start thinking of beyond ourselves, of our local communities, of what can we solve. I remember a few years ago, I met a billionaire. I met lots of different people, and this guy flew into Vancouver. I met with him, and I go to meet with the guy at the Vancouver International Airport, and I go to meet him, and I did a lot of research on him, and I sit down with this guy, and this guy's got all these newspapers. That's kind of different. So I said, sir, can I ask you a question? You've got all these newspapers. Why do you read all this negative news? He goes to me, he goes, Darren, I don't know what you believe, or if you believe, or spiritually, or whatever you believe, but I believe all the CNN news is my to-do list of how to solve problems in the world. And I build wealth and invest in companies so I can serve humanity by solving problems, because I don't watch the news and get affected negatively wise. I watch the news as that's my to-do list to serve humanity. Right? So start looking at the challenges and problems where you live, in your street, your neighborhood, your community, and think, what if I could take a stand for myself and my family? And whether you do it publicly, you do it anonymously, it's your choice. But what are some things that you could take on, because how we get our life to work is creating projects and games. If you want to get your life working at a higher level, or you want to get your kids more involved in action, start creating projects and games. Play games. Because when you play games, you create a lot of fun, a lot of excitement, but then it brings up that childlike curiosity inside yourself. So for some of you doing agent attraction, like, oh my gosh, it's so hard. No, create a game and start thinking, man, I'm gonna talk to 20 people this week just to have a conversation, to connect with them, to find out what matters most in their life. Because all we are is a network of conversations with human beings. That's all we are, is a network of conversations. And just start having conversations. And then two things, start making requests. So one key thing is, ask yourself this question: where am I not requesting in my life? So you take a look, self-evaluation. Where am I not requesting personally and professionally in my life? So where am I not requesting? Because I'll tell you right now, your next deal is in your mobile phone. The next agent that you attract is already in your mobile phone. See, so many people are looking out there. I'm like, pick up your phone and build relationships with people. Your next deal is in your phone, but you haven't followed up with people because you make it about yourself versus make it about people. Here's one thing I do during the global pandemic. I call people up. I called the guy this morning, for example. I called him up. I said, hi, Jerry, it's Darren Jacklin giving you a call. I haven't talked to you in a while. He goes, what can I help you with? And I said, you know what? I have no agenda. I'm just calling to see, what are you dealing with right now during COVID? How's your business? How's your family? And all of a sudden he goes silent. He goes, what? And I said, how are you dealing with all this? He goes, you have to hold on a second. And so I hold on, and he says, I got to get rid of somebody. And somebody's on the line, and he comes back and goes, wow. He said, I haven't had a conversation like this in months. He goes, why are you asking me this question? I said, because I care. And he says, thank you. He said, you know, it's been hard. I've had to lay off some people, I had to furlough some people. My kids are at home. You know, it's driving my wife and I nuts because we want our kids in school. He said, it's just been really effective. It's been really hard. And I just called to talk to another human being. No agenda, not trying to sell anything, not trying to move my agenda or anything like that, just to connect, to build some relationship equity. And that's the key thing, is that it's how do you show up in people's lives in terms of building authentic, vulnerable, connected relationships. Because here's something that most people don't understand. Success is not something that you go out in the world to pursue. Success is something you attract into your life by the person that you become. It's not something you go out in the world to pursue. It's something you attract into your life by the person that you become. So you become an attractive person. People always say, Darren, you're just so lucky. No, luck is preparation meeting opportunity. I prepare myself because it's all about connecting with other people and building relationships with people. And when you build relationship equity with people and make it relational versus transactional, and you build up that relationship equity, it will pay dividends over time when you're not attached to the outcome.
That's awesome. Thank you. I have it muted so you don't hear them back here, but you had us all in tears. Yeah. And there's definitely applause.
Where do we get his book?
Yeah, so sign me up for 100 copies of your book, and
Sure,
we're gonna pass these out. So I'm just looking through our questions here. So besides being on the board of directors, and we put these questions together as a group. Sure. So from being on the board of directors and not being a licensed agent, what is really your personal kind of fulfillment to be involved with EXP?
Lots of things. One is I've seen many people's dreams get stolen from them. And I'm very protective of Glenn Sanford, the founder. I'm very protective of him because I remember as a kid growing up and seeing dreams get stolen in my life and other kids' lives. And I think it's important to dream. It's important to dream to set an example for the next generation that it's possible to have dreams. Dreams create opportunities. Dreams create employment, economic developments, create sustainability. So first thing was Glenn. When Glenn met me, it was all about building a relationship with me, right? Glenn wasn't after me for all my contacts. Glenn wasn't after me for all that stuff. Glenn wanted to know who I was as a human being. And I spent, in the early days, it's different now, but in the early days, just hanging out with Glenn, having a lunch with Glenn, hanging out with Glenn. And so for me, it's that. It's the people in the team that a lot of people don't see. Michael Valdez, for example, incredible human being, passionately driven to want to make a huge difference in the world. Jason Gessing, we see him as a CEO of EXP Realty. What you don't see is a tireless leader behind the scenes who dedicates so much time and energy, so many hours in a day of stuff that people don't see that he does, that I see, that I'm witness to, right? And you see, I'll give you an example. So some of you may follow me on social media, and you may see from time to time, I associate with a lot of different real estate agents in EXP and outside of EXP, a lot of top producers across Canada. And I belong to a hiking club here in Vancouver, Canada, okay? And a few months ago, some of the agents, some top producing agents with some other competing firms, Remax and other companies here in Canada, Remax is a big company here in Canada, they're posted on my social media wall. Glenn Sanford, our founder, posts on the wall, hey, too bad the border wasn't closed between the US and Canada. I would drive up and come hiking with you guys for the day. Think about that. In the company that you came from, would your CEO, would your executives, would the founders, would they do something like that? Would they just come up and see, this is why behavior, this is what excites me about EXP is it's not what people say, it's what they do. I watch people's feet, not their lips. Talk is cheap to me. Start watching people's feet, not their lips. You'll see a different human being. A lot of people talk a good game, but you watch the behavior, you watch the feet, it's different. And so what I like with Glenn is who he is, right? I had a gentleman I talked to last week. I have 2 calls this afternoon I will do a 3-way call with you, right? I'm on multiple calls throughout every week with different agent attractors introducing people. I do 3-way calls. People are blown away. I was on a call the other day with a gentleman who was talking to somebody. He goes, I said, have you talked to some other people in the company? He goes, yeah, I just got off the phone with Glenn. Now I'm on the phone with you. And I said, what was that experience like for you? He goes, sir, he goes, I've been in the real estate industry for 30 years. I have never met the founders of the companies that I've been with before. See, that's the difference. It's family, it's heart, it's connection. So that's what it is with me. So I serve on the board of directors of eXp Realty or eXp World Holdings. Then I also serve on a board of directors of a company out of South Africa that has about $300 million in assets under management in the medical office spaces across the United States. I also serve on a board of directors of a cybersecurity company, which is great because I get briefed on cybersecurity. Our company was actually at the White House last August of 2020, briefing the White House in cybersecurity. I like that because I get briefed at a very high level and behind the scenes on how cybersecurity works. So I can help to mitigate risks and make sure that we ask tough, hard questions in the board of directors meeting so we can protect all the agents and shareholders of this ecosystem we've created with eXp. Because sometimes when we get growing, we have blind spots. And we don't see the blind spots. And so I'm all about asset protection and risk mitigation. And how do we do what's right, but how do we protect ourselves? Because the bigger that we grow, the more visibility and the more exposure we get. And we get hugged and we get slugged. We get kissed and we get kicked. And so I'm always mindful of what are the potential threats or attacks out there that we may not see, that always be aware of. And then myself not being a licensed agent, I have a multi-million-dollar real estate investment portfolio across North America. And I do something called Philanthropy Investing in the United States, where I help families get into a home and within 5 to 7 years have home ownership and make a difference in the American dream. And so I have a lot of real estate that Tatiana and I own together and make a difference. And then we have our own private family foundation for global philanthropy, where we're doing stuff over in Africa right now, providing personal hygiene, sanitary napkins to girls, young girls over in Africa, providing education, providing food during this COVID-19 with an emergency preparedness plan, and then building schools to educate them so we can alleviate them from poverty and empower them. And then we'll be doing stuff throughout North America as well. And that's what drives me is making a difference in people's lives. It's not about me. I'm just here as a human being to be in service to humanity. And what I love with eXp is how many people, what I love about eXp is the stories. I love the stories of when an agent comes to me and says, thank you so much. I now have more time with my children. Or thank you so much. I was spending so much money in overhead fees. Now I've dedicated that money to a cause. I love hearing the stories of like, and Mike, I know you guys just moved to, a home now in Puerto Rico and stuff. And I don't know if you know the backstory with that, how it originally started, but Gene Frederick and I had a conversation. I introduced Gene to Dab Michaels, and now there's like 30 people in Puerto Rico as a result of that. But The thing is, you'll save money on taxes down there, but then that money can be saved and that can be allocated towards something else, to supporting your children or supporting other causes that can make a ripple of impact.
Well, but Darren, for us, it was not really just the tax break.
Sure.
More importantly, you talked about start following the people, that influence you, and that's what it is. It's going to be the ability to be around Gene and to be around Brent Gove, and that's who we look up to, right?
Yeah.
And I know, let me see, I think we're right at your 30-minute mark, so I have one more question. I don't know if you have time for it.
No, for sure.
So what is the biggest opportunity that you see that maybe agents are not seeing or taking full advantage with eXp?
Global travel. So if you have a bucket list or a live list, global travel. Like the young fellow that's in the room there right now, imagine if he could see 20 countries by the time he's 30. What that would do for his vocabulary, his mindset, his skill set, his awareness. So global travel is a big thing. Being able to be location independent and virtual and living life on your own terms. Going to bed when you're tired and waking up when you're done sleeping, right? People say, how do you do that consistently? Being able to live life on your own terms. And in a fast changing world that we can be mobile or virtual, where you can travel. Because the key thing is that you can go anywhere you want with a laptop and a cell phone, and having that opportunity to travel and go different places and explore this beautiful planet. And hopefully with COVID-19 that things change and over the coming months, and that restrictions change with the vaccine, all that stuff. But I think with global travel, but also the relationships that you can build. Because if you've got children, they're always watching and observing you. It's the modeling. And when you show kids that, hey, it's possible to dream big, because here's something to always remember. Many of your goals do not require your actions. just think about that for a moment. Many of your goals do not require your actions, but we've been taught that we have to do all the actions to achieve all the goals. But I just want you to digest that many of your goals do actually not require your actions. It's done through creating teams and teamworks, automation, systems, strategies, things like that. But many of your goals do not require your own actions. So there's many goals and dreams that you may have had growing up as a kid or throughout your teenage years that you've always wanted to achieve, personally or professionally, right? Your live list, your bucket list. And a lot of those goals don't have to be a result of your effort and actions. There's many ways today with technology and with EXP and the mentorship and the modeling and the training development where you can start to discover that in terms of human potential self-actualization. You're not here to be average and ordinary. You're here to be extraordinary. You're here to live a life that's rich, full, that's delicious, to expand yourself to who you can as a human being, to go for it. And you're in a safe environment. You're in a safe environment to be that goofball, that weirdo that your relatives think you are for what you're crazy. Here, you're like, I always say people in EAP, we're all just a bunch of misfits. We all just come together. But you think about that. Because as you go out there and talk to the average person out there, they can't make sense of what we do. It's contagious because we have a lot of fun. Because we're in a great environment. We have a great ecosystem with our core values and the way this has been built, but also the leadership of Glenn and Jason and Dave and many other people and the global team now. It's their hearts and their desire to make a difference is so important. And that's what I'm inspired by is the leadership of what we have built here with EXP. We're a case study. We're a model for people to watch us. I just got off a call just before I came on this call. I was just on a call in France with some people, with an investment firm that's watching EXP, and they asked some very high level questions. And they're a private family office, with a lot of money, assets under management, and they're trying to make sense of our business model because they invest in real estate. And they were interviewing me and a couple other people to just try and make sense of our model. And I clarified a lot of questions for them. The lady's like, "Wow, now I understand your numbers and your growth. Wow. You guys are onto something." And I said, because it's about the heart, it's about people. And she's like, "Yeah." She goes, "We deal with, we're all about numbers and our IRRs and return on investment." I said, "Well, you know what, something to consider?" I said, "Start measuring ROE." And she goes, "What's ROE?" Return on energy. See, as we get older, we look at people in their 60s, their 70s, their 80s, their 90s. What's their energies like? Peter Thomas, some of you may know Peter Thomas in the room, founder of Century 21 Real Estate, one of the guys at Century 21 Real Estate, the Four Seasons Hotels. I was with Peter 2 years ago, 86 years of age. I couldn't keep up to him. Tatiana couldn't believe it. My partner, Tatiana, she's like, "Oh my gosh, this guy's 86 years old and his vitality." And I said, when I'm 86, I want energy like him. Because it's a return on energy. And so think about as you're here in EXP and you want to travel and you're around people, return on energy. Because you want to be in an environment where you go home at the end of the day, you got energy for your kids and things that matter to you in your life, not going home and feeling tired and drained. And that's why it's important to get around people where you get that return on energy.
Wow. Thank you so much. And like I said, I muted it, but there was a lot of wows and ahas. I can hear them behind me here. And by the way, you're up on the big screen, so they're watching you. Darren, I want to thank you. I know you're incredibly busy, and you and Tatiana, I can honestly say, have impacted Hamudi and I's life and our kids. I know that I think Salim interviewed you like 2 years ago.
Yes.
And so, we're very blessed to know you. We love you guys, and
Absolutely.
we'd love to invite you when all this crazy stuff is over to Puerto Rico or Israel.
Absolutely, love to.
On behalf of everybody, I want to say thank you, and I know you made a big impact today.
Thank you very much, everyone. I'm very grateful to be here.
Thank you so much, Darren. Tell Tatiana I said hi and send her my love.
I will do that. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. You bet. Bye-bye.